Hello, hang on, are we going live? We are live. We are looking like we're live. This could be a miracle. Come on, let's go. Okay, it looks like we're live, so I'm going to continue. I'm going to start over here. And we've had, I've been having tech issues with live videos on Facebook, so apologies. I'm hoping this does stream live. If you do watch this, I'd love for you to comment to show me that it's working, because last time I did one of these, it didn't go live. We just video recorded and it posted up later. So who knows? So if you're watching this, please comment, and I'd love to hear from you so I know that you're here and I can interact with you in a better way. So I'm going to get started. I don't know if anyone is over here. What is going on? That's all right. I'll do what I did last time. I'll just talk and I'll post it up later if it doesn't actually stream live. Profile and want more of this type of information, we do these webinars weekly. Jump across to those two sisters Time to Shine and you'll get all the information that you need. So today what I wanted to talk to you about is the emotions that come up during yoga. So why in yoga do we, well, I don't know if I say we, but let's just say I cry. Like, oh, we've got someone watching. Yay, it's working. Why in yoga do I cry? I don't know if anyone else on here that's watching has a similar experience or has experienced this before, but my experience with yoga and crying goes way back. And I'd like to give you a little history so you know what I'm talking about, especially if you haven't experienced this before, or you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, or you've never done yoga. So within yoga, I started learning about yoga I say many years ago, when my daughter was just before my daughter was born, so 8 years ago or 9 years ago now. I attended my first yoga class, and I happened to just walk into a hot yoga class, which is the Bikram style. Before I go any further, apologies on my appearance. I've just had a massage and it finished at like 11:30, and she said you can't shower for 4 to 6 hours, hence my crazy hair a little bit. It's not too bad. So yeah, I started yoga, and I just happened to walk into a Bikram hot yoga class. And these classes are full on. Like, they're heat, it's hot, it's sweaty, it's mentally challenging, it's physically challenging, and hello Susan, and it's just really full on. And what I was finding was, when I was in certain poses, I'd be feeling really good mentally, and then I'd get into a certain pose, and the next minute I am crying my eyes out for no apparent reason. I feel really emotional. I'm crying, and it seemed to be only certain poses, and I never really looked into it. I assumed it was probably because I was, connecting back in with myself, and looking into my spirituality, and just actually having time to myself, that it was allowing my emotions to come up when they came up. And you can never pick it. Some days it was really a really easy class, and I'd be thinking this was easy and really doing it all. And the next day I'd come to yoga and I would cry through the whole thing. And it's funny. It's funny because it's so funny how the universe works, because the reason I chose this topic was, one, I have been crying in yoga for many years, as I just explained. But the other reason I chose this topic was because last night I had a little incident. Was it the night before? It all blurs into one. Where I was feeling really down. I was feeling flat. I had no energy. I shared this in my Soul School group. If the Soul Schoolers saw my Facebook Live. So I went for a walk, which is my first sure thing that helps me get my good mood back. Didn't really help. I still was in a really bad mental space. Then I decided to do a workout, and that always helps. Like 99.9% of the time, my workout will get me in a better mood. And that didn't help. I still felt in a really crappy mood. So I thought, what do I need to do here? So I thought, look, I didn't do my workout properly because I was in such a bad mood. I half did it. So we're all human. But what I decided was I needed to do some yoga slash stretching. Now I do follow some guided classes, but I'm getting pretty good at listening to my body. And I know where my body's tense, and I know where my body's sore, and I just stretch. So I start usually out with cat cow, like stretching my back. I love child's pose for the through the back of the shoulder blades. That really works for me. Any twisting pose. I've just learned along the way what works for my body. And if anyone can do this, don't even need a yoga mat. Get on the floor and start moving your body. You will feel, if you just tune in, exactly where you're sore. And then intuitively, you know your body. I don't even know how I know what I know, but I'm doing this. You just move and you're like, oh yeah, that feels good. And you stretch it out. Like, it really helps. So I thought I'd do that. I laid down started my poses, and I thought to myself, oh, I remember this pigeon pose that really always used to make me cry. And I'm feeling really emotional. Everything was pent up inside of me. And I thought, oh, I'll try pigeon. Now, most of you will probably know what pigeon pose is. I actually didn't plan on doing this. So I don't have my yoga mat out. And I've got my Ugg boots on. Actually, let me take my Ugg boots off so you don't see them. And sorry if you guys can't see over there, but you'll have to get onto Those Two Sisters Time to Shine to see it all. So when you do pigeon pose, no, you're not going to be able to see it. Yeah, there you go. You can both see now. You get down on your knees. I'll have to go back a tiny bit. You get down on your knees, one leg's back, one knee's forward, and you literally go down like this. So it gets you right in your hips, right into your hips and your pelvic area. Apologies for those that couldn't see that. It's called pigeon pose. So Google it if you want to try it. It's amazing. What stopped? Something stopped. Okay, sorry, I can't do anything. The Facebook Live stopped maybe. Anyway, all good. And what happened for me is in pigeon pose, it suddenly released all these emotions. I just started it felt like something just dropped in, and I just started crying, like nonstop, howling, like crying, just bawling my eyes out. And I mean, there were reasons. I had some stuff going on, but I couldn't stop. And I literally laid in pigeon on one leg and then laid in pigeon on the other leg and just cried for, I don't even know how long. I feel it was like half an hour of me just lying on my yoga mat, crying my eyes out. So when I was thinking of a topic, and it really did help, so it released the emotions. I did some other stuff after I journaled. I took a bath. I called some friends, my sister, and I felt amazing since that because I knew what to do when the emotions came. So when I was thinking up of a topic for today's webinar, I thought, perfect. I like to choose things that, one, I'm passionate about, but two, that I'm actually going through at that particular time. So I chose why do I cry during yoga? Because that question, and I never really got to the bottom of it. I have some idea. Obviously, yoga is a release, but for these webinars, I like to share stuff that I'm learning. So I did a little bit of a play around on, the old research/Google, and I've learned some really interesting things. And the funny thing is that the interesting things actually all link into the massage I just had, like literally finished half an hour of this massage. Now, it was a myofascial cupping exercise, cupping massage. And when I started to look into why we cry during yoga, I realized that what's happening is it's all to do with the fascia, however you want to say it. And another funny synchronicity, coincidence, whatever you want to call it, was I was down at Emily Shine's event the other night. Shine Your Light, great event if you ever want a great networking event down the coast. First Thursday of the month, just give Emily a plug. But I was down at this event, and one of the first people I spoke to was a guy called Greg. And I said, oh yeah, what do you do? You know how that works? And he said, oh, I work in facial fascia, like with myofascia massage, basically. I was like, oh my God, that's so interesting because I just booked in for this myofascial cupping massage, and we got talking about fascia and all this stuff. Anyway, so when I started to look into the yoga and why it was making me cry, I realized that it all links back down to the fascia, Fascia, if you're wondering what I'm talking about. I'm really missing my little plant behind me, by the way. It looks very bare. It's out in the rain, if you're wondering. It's like there's a bare basket with no plant in it. So what I realized was that the fascia was the thing, the main thing, the physical thing that was causing the crying. Now, so yoga, the word yoga is a Sanskrit name. The Sanskrit word is Y-U-I-U-E, and it means yoke or unite the body, breath, mind, and spirit. So this crying business is probably not just physical, and it's probably not just... Greg's on here! Oh my God, Greg's the bloody fascia man. This is so funny. Oh, spiritual stuff, all this weird stuff going on. So I don't know, Greg, if you heard, but I just had a cupping massage, and he'll be able to tell us a bit more. And feel free, Greg, to put in the comments anything that you know, because people will learn from it. And I'm not any expert. I never claim to be an expert. So what I'm telling you guys is just stuff that I found on my little Google expedition. So Greg will be the expert, so he can feel free to comment in there, whatever you know about it. But basically, so yoga is a united body, mind, breath, spirit sort of thing. And what our bodies do, and Greg just said that, is that they store or remember emotions and experiences. A lot of it is from childhood, a lot of it's from trauma, a lot of it's from stuff that's happened in the past. But even people that don't have a lot of trauma, like wouldn't say I have trauma at all in my life. I've been very lucky not to have any massive events or traumatic things that I would say have been traumatic in my life, but I still cry my eyes out. I heard bitch. What? Anyway, I must have said a word that sounded like a rude word. So yeah, I cry my eyes out. So I'm like, well, obviously I've got trauma in my body. But what I didn't realize is that our thoughts can cause us trauma just as much as an actual traumatic event. So this trauma of our thought pattern can cause this buildup of energy, I suppose, within our body. And energy trauma gets bound up within the body. And one of the main areas where it gets bound up is in our hips and our pelvic area, which I wouldn't have thought would be a place. But yeah, it makes sense that when I do the pigeon pose, which is a really strong hip opener, I bawl my eyes out. So, so what is it saying about the thoughts? So thoughts can be trauma. So thoughts about the past or thoughts about the future, they're all releasing chemicals within our brain. So there's a chemical exchange in our brain when we have these thoughts and emotions. So this thing's back to front. It's really confusing. And these chemicals are neurotransmitters, chemical compounds, and hormones, and they get released into our brain. And from that, some stuff goes down, biological stuff and things happen. Like, when you get really nervous, and even though the thoughts passed, you're still like shaking or you're still blushing when you've met that person that you're like, oh, and even though your thought's gone, you're still having a physical reaction. So it turns out that these chemical compounds, the exchange of these chemicals actually lasts up to 90 seconds after your thought has happened. It's pretty cool. But then what happens is all this stuff is then stored in what we call our fascia. Fascia, I'd probably say fascia, which basically people's like, what's fascia? Now, I've done a science degree many, many years ago. I do have vague recollections of learning about this, but basically what it is your muscles made up of like protein, like big chunks of protein, and fascia is the thing that wraps it all together. Like it keeps it all together. There's no point having your muscles, they'll just be flopping around. So your fascia, it wraps everything, and it actually wraps your whole body up. Like it's wrapping all your organs, your muscles. It's like this big protective thing that holds us all together. And it's actually made up of collagen, which is pretty cool. And it surrounds our body, and the fascia is made up not just of collagen, but it's also 70% made up of water. So you've got collagen and water, and it's in this amazing thing that wraps us all up, that all these emotions and traumas and thought patterns are all stored in this physical thing called the fascia. So what happens is when we get trauma, like emotional trauma or thought trauma, or even probably physical trauma, I'm guessing, the fascia starts to dehydrate. So that 70% water starts to shrink. People are saying they can't find On Time to Shine. I'm live somewhere because people are commenting over here. Hey, Greg and Sandy, whereabouts? Can you comment where you're watching this? Because I'm getting comments regularly, and I thought I was On Time to Shine. Some people have found it. I have no idea what's going on. Anyway, this is weird. Bloody technology. Stored. Where did I get to? Yeah. So we dehydrate. And when the fascia dehydrates, it thickens and it becomes like sticky. So when we're born, the fascia is like liquid. So it's like all gooey, and like little babies, they're all like floppy, and you can do anything with them because their fascia, that thing that holds it all together, is nice and pliable and it moves. But as we get older, our fascia starts to thicken and it gets like sticky and hard, like it's solidifying. And the more like use we have of a certain muscle group, the more it will solidify. So, for example, which all has links to emotions. So when you're happy, what do? You put your chest up, your head comes up, your shoulders come back. So that motion is putting your fascia into it like a certain thing, and it's like got a memory. So if you're constantly stressed or really anxious or sad, what do? You crunch forward, you crunch into your shoulders, and then all your fascia around your back is going to tighten and get hard. Same with your hips. If you have like storing emotions in your hips, which can, and females probably have a lot of it because it's a lot to do with your sacral energy, like your femininity, your sexuality, any sort of trauma you've got around that, or even your creativity is all blocked up and it's stored in that pelvic area. So as we use these muscles over and over and over, the fascia becomes tighter and tighter and solidifies. So, and thickens basically. So, yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so stretching and things like yoga, what it does is it stretches out those solidified fascia amounts around your muscle, and it's stretching them out. So in that fascia is all these stored traumatic emotions, thoughts, feelings, whatever you want to call it, all stored in there. And when it's basically stretching, like when you're doing your yoga or you're stretching, it's releasing it. So it's pulling, it's all like this, all bound up like this. And then as you stretch it out, obviously you can see what's going to happen is going to start releasing. So it makes sense that when you're in these poses and you're holding them for a while, that emotion starts getting released. And it literally comes out of the blue because you don't even feel it coming. You just, 1 minute you're fine, next minute you're crying like a baby. And you just think, where the hell did that come from? It's crazy. So it's just all bound up and then it's just released out. So that's how yoga helps. The other way, obviously, with yoga is it puts you in a mindset where it's okay to feel emotions. And also, yoga, it takes you into a place where you can start to feel and label your emotions, because during our normal day-to-day lives, what's happening is people are being told that it's not okay to have your emotions labeled. It's not okay to know what emotions you're feeling. And so we just generalize and basically come up with these generic emotions. So instead of saying like, I'm really angry today, I'm really jealous, I'm really anxious, I'm really envious today. Oh, I like want to rip someone's face off. That sort of feeling, that's not really socially acceptable. You're not usually going to get on Facebook stories, Instagram stories, or Facebook lives and say that stuff. What you're going to say is, oh my God, I just feel really upset today, or I just feel sad. You're not going to say, I'm bloody jealous and I'm got envy of someone who's doing something better than me and I don't feel good enough. You're going to say, I'm sad. So we're generalizing our emotions. We're not labeling them as exactly what they are. So what yoga does is it takes us to a place where firstly it gives us time to feel our emotions physically and emotionally. So you're lying there and the teacher will, talk you through it, like scan your body. Can you feel any tightness in your body? Oh yeah, I can feel tightness in my chest. Oh shit, my shoulder blades feel like there's like a bloody big thing right between them. They're so tight. Oh yeah, my jaw's aching. I didn't realize my jaw's aching. Oh, that's because I've been clenching my jaw for the last 2 days because I've been under a fair bit of stress. So it's making you identify the physical parts of your body where you're holding these, and then you're able to name it. So you're going to go into the emotion as to what I'm actually feeling here. And yoga teaches us that it's okay to name and feel our emotions, and then you're able to release it and regulate it. So some people say to me like, oh, well, I did a heap of crying in yoga yesterday. Is that it? Am I all done? No, unfortunately not. Because just like energetic healing, like our aura or that part of ourselves outside of ourselves, just like that, this stuff comes in layers. So it all comes off in layers as well. So the fascia actually has the emotion stored in different layers, 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 layers. So you have a good cry in yoga, this layer, we're released, we feel good. And then a week later, we do the same pose and we're feeling emotional again. We have another good cry, next layer, and it goes on and on. And it could go on for the rest of your life. But yeah, Beck's saying, and to allow our emotions. Allow is a big one, hey, Beck, because it's okay to label them. Oh yeah, I'm feeling angry and sad and jealous. But if we don't allow ourselves to actually feel it, that's as bad. That's locking them up like we did by not naming them. So when you're feeling angry, you let it out. Or if you're feeling sad, you do what I do. You just cry and you ride the wave of the emotion, because that is a part of the releasing. Because every time you push something down, and I say this in Soul School all the time to the ladies and the men, if you push it down, it's locked away and it makes disease. It makes us sick. It causes physical disease. And it may not cause it straight away, but it will build up and it will build up and it will build up and it will come out in a myriad of tears or a very serious disease or something that's going to shock the pants off you. You're like, I don't know where that came from. I don't know, like I don't know where that came from. Oh, it's come from your 44 years of hiding your emotions and pushing everything down and not releasing them. So this is why yoga and any form of stretching is a really, really, really good way to release our stored trauma emotions, and it is a type of healing. That's why we all feel so good after yoga or even stretching. I keep saying the word yoga, but don't get too caught up in yoga. Like, yoga is amazing. The actual yoga classes, I love them. Absolutely amazing. But you know what? If you've got 10 minutes and you've got a mat, you get on the floor and you stretch. That's what yoga is. It's stretching, it's being mindful, it's connecting back in with yourself, it's doing some deep breathing, it is allowing your thoughts to release, it's allowing your tears to come out. Whatever it is for you, it doesn't have to be called yoga, it can be called stretching, whatever you want to do. So, the last thing I want to talk about is what if you're doing like a proper yoga class, which particular yoga classes are more I can't see everyone's comments, are more beneficial for emotional release. And I knew straight away, like, I intuitively know this stuff. People don't need to teach me this. I just knew straight away. So the yin yoga, YIN yoga, I have done several times now. It's one of my favorites. It Looking on the surface, I wouldn't have usually chosen it to be my favorite, because it's long stretches, which is not me. Like, I'm let's do this, go, 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 go sort of person. So the thought of sitting in a yoga pose for 5 or 6 minutes, like my head says, no, thank you. No, get me into the hot yoga where I'm like sweating and going real hard and overachieving. So when I tried the yin yoga, I was very dubious. But guess what? More crying, because you're holding these stretches for 5 or 6 minutes at a time. One, it's quite painful when you're pushing yourself, like when you've got a really tight hip or a really tight upper body or anywhere in your body, and you're stretching into it and you're pushing and you're breathing and you're pushing and you're breathing. So although it doesn't look like it's a physical thing, it's like, oh, you're just sitting in one pose for 5 minutes. You're actually really pushing those muscles and the fascia, obviously. So, and I'm assuming, and I don't know the science behind this, I have heard people say it to me before, you have to hold a stretch for, actually, I think it was one of you girls told me this, I think it was at least a minute to have any sort of effect. So holding a pose or a stretch in yin yoga for 5 or 6 minutes at a time is like perfect for that release, because it's just amazing. And I've been going from sitting upright, and they're like, apparently I've got really tight hips. When I try to sit in cross-legged and I try to lean forward, I can barely get this far. Like, I'm like, everyone, like some of the yoga instructors got their chest on the ground in front of them, and I'm like, what the hell? But I can't move. My hips are so banged up, I can't move. But after 5 or 6 minutes of just doing those little pushing through the pain and pushing through, I get close. I don't get my chest on the ground, just quietly, but I get closer. Do you know what I mean? So it's amazing, and so you feel like you've really achieved something, the best. So yin yoga is one of the best yoga classes to go to if you're really looking at emotional stress. And I'm sure if you Googled and looked out there, there's probably teachers around this area that actually teach emotional release yoga. I'm sure it's a thing. Don't quote me, but I'm sure it is a thing that they actually taking yoga classes on the proviso of releasing your emotions. because it's scientifically proven. It's really cool. And the other thing I was laughing at, it's not just yoga that makes me cry. I cry at everything. But like massages make me cry in pain sometimes, but other times, especially the Kahuna or the Lomi Lomi massages. And I'm lying there thinking, oh, this is really lovely. It just feels like a nice normal massage. Next minute, they touch something, not hard, like it's not a physical thing. They run it's very flowy. They run their hand. I had one particular one that she rubbed, Megan rubbed her hand, and she got to a spot where was it just above my thigh, above my knee. I just about shot off the bed, not in pain, in absolute emotional. I went, and it just came up in this big barrage of tears. And I'm like, what the heck happened? But what they're doing, and it's very similar to the fascia, is they're working on Chinese meridian points. So the meridians, they're lines of energy that run up and down your body, and they all have particular meanings. So when we looked into the meridian that she was working on when I had this huge emotional release, like my whole body was like shaking, it all linked into what I was going through. And what I was crying about linked exactly the meridian that she had been working on when I had this emotional release. So it's very similar, massage, yoga. It's all to do with movement of the fascia and the muscles, basically. I'm pretty sure myofascia is muscle. Myo is muscle from my science days, and the fascia. So it's the fascia that's wrapping around the muscles that we're working on. Greg, if you're still here, correct me. No one's commenting. Oh, here they're all commenting. I just couldn't see them. Sorry about that, everybody. I thought no one was commenting. I'll let me just quickly look at those. Greg, everyone experiences trauma. Yes, this is true. It could be getting a burr or splinter in your foot, clicking your toe on something, or jamming a finger in the door. I've done all of that. Oh, this is on my personal page. Okay, well, everyone gets to see it. It's not on the Time to Shine group. We'll share across later. Bloody tech air shows. And apparently I just popped up. Beautiful. What the bleep do we know? Love that movie. Someone gave it to me many, many years ago before I was into this stuff, and I was like, this is what the bleep do I know? I think I started watching it, and I'm like, what the bleep is this? And I shoved it back in the drawer. And then years later, I found it. It was a DVD. It was old. Years later, I found it in my DVD drawer, and I watched it, and I was like blown away. I was like, holy shit, this is way above its time, beyond its time. Oh, there you go. Wind, bile. You said that as I'm bloody getting mucus out of my thing. Wind, bile, phlegm, mucus in our body is responsible for hundreds of inner disease and disorders carried in our blood through the body. It's why we can instantly feel sick sometimes due to the velocity and speed that the blood travels around the body. Stretch the fascia allows the toxic substances to be picked in blood and stored somewhere else in the body. There you go. I suggest to ingest Epsom salts and to purge the bowel and release the toxic shock. Yes, and the other funny thing about all this, if you haven't been watching, Joe Dispenza. I don't think it is a Joe Dispenza video from memory, but it's very similar to what he teaches, Marita. So yeah, it's just called What the Bleep Do I Know? It's very dated, bad acting from the bloody 80s from the look of it. It's just bad, but it's the actual premise behind the whole thing is blew my mind. It's like way, way beyond its time. What I was saying was talk about toxic shock and your toxins in your body. So I've just been, I hate the word diagnosed, but diagnosed with a genetic mutation of the MTHFR gene, which has extremely a lot to do with your body's being unable to detoxify your self. So heavy metals build up, toxins build up because this gene's responsible for breaking down toxins. So maybe this is why I cry. There you go. This is my answer why I cry. I'm not just a la suki la baby. It's because I've got a heap of toxins in my body and the crying is releasing. There you go. That's what I'm going to say. It would make sense though. Like if I have this genetic mutation and I do have a lot of toxins stored in my body, which is coming out in massive skin rashes. So I finally got my answers as to that. It would make sense that when I get massages or I'm stretching, it's releasing probably more than the normal person because there's a lot built up in there. There you go. It's all sorted. Okay, I think I've got everyone's comments. Sorry if you commented and I haven't spoken to you or mentioned it. And yes, apparently I'm only on my personal page. but this will be shared across to those two sisters Time to Shine. And we do these webinars weekly. So 1 week Diane does her webinar on whatever she's learning that week. It's usually about mindset and life coaching and those type of things. And the week after, I'll do my webinar on the soul class, which is to do with spirituality. I'm very much into physics, like science stuff. So you'll see a lot of the themes in mine will be not only spirituality, but how it links in with science. So that's why I talk about frequency and energy and all this stuff. Like, I just love it. I'm so passionate about it. And I just want to share my passion and what I'm learning. As I said, it's not a webinar where it's my information. It's not a webinar that's specific information, but it's just what I'm learning and I like to share it. So they're Wednesdays at 12 o'clock usually, advertised on those two sisters Time to Shine group. You'll see the adverts come up saying the topic and where they're at. And eventually they probably won't be on my personal page. It'll be just on the Time to Shine group. So that's why we're asking the personal page people to come across and join the group, because we give so much content in there. We give like heaps of content, so much. So yeah, everyone's saying they loved the webinar and you love science. Yeah, love science. So yeah, weekly webinars, heaps of content. So join it. Those two sisters Time to Shine. Have I plugged it enough? Those two sisters Time to Shine. Get your ass over there. No, it's such a beautiful group and I don't want it to go to waste. I don't want people missing out on what we're sharing because it's amazing. The other thing I want to tell you about is we are starting new webinars. Diane, am I allowed to announce this if you're watching? Because we have our 4-hour half-day workshop, which is freaking mind-blowing. If you haven't been, make sure you get your tickets. 6 Steps to Soul Success workshop. And we run them mostly on Saturdays, but we're going to play around with the days from 9 to 1. Online, so it doesn't matter where you are based in Australia or the world, you can jump onto that. We'll get the link here, or just message me and I can send you the link to register for that. But what we're finding is people are busy. They're like, oh, I can't make that. It's 4 hours. So we're planning a new webinar, well, not new, a webinar, masterclass, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be 90 minutes. So it'll be an in and out version, a summarized version of the 6 Steps to Soul Success. Maybe we'll have to call it 3 Steps to Soul Success. No, we won't. And it's just about teaching people how to be happy again. Like, we're trying to work out what we're doing in our business. We do so much and people are like, oh, I'm confused with what you do. So we went through the pillars of what we're actually teaching people, and we decided that we're teaching people how to be happy again, because everyone says, I want what you got. And I'm like, well, what do I have? Oh, I'm just happy. I'm happy within myself. And we're teaching you how to be happy again, because we use the word again because you've all been there. You know what happiness is. And for whatever reason, you've lost it, whether it be trauma, bloody a job you hate, a relationship that's not serving you, kids that are driving you up the wall, whatever it might be, you have forgotten how to be happy. And our job, my sister and my job, is to basically find your happiness again. Like, get some jig about you. Get some energy. So moping around life. Like, I've had a shit couple of days. Like, I really have. I've had a lot of stuff go down the last 2 days, but I refuse to let it drag me down. I let the emotions come. I feel them. I cry my eyes out. I ring friends. I vent, and then I bloody well move on. But if I say that, but if like today, if an emotion comes up, I feel it still. So even though I've given myself a time, like afterwards, I just oh, I feel a bit sad. Oh, okay. Oh, a little bit of a cry. Okay, move on. Like you let it come out and you move on with your day. So you just got to go with the flow. Diane, what are you wowing about? So so here we are presenting, giving it all to you. So that if you want more of this, there's so much more we offer. But community coffee every second Wednesday is a free event. Greg, I noticed you registered. It's just a group of like-minded people coming together. We do cacao circles once a month on a Friday, usually the first Friday of the month here, and it's also streamed online. Just a bunch of people sitting around talking deep stuff, basically. I love it, drinking amazing cacao. The half-day workshop, 6 Steps to Soul Success. Next one is on Saturday, 12th of June. Make sure you register, but we run them monthly. The new webinars that are coming up, What else have I missed? Retreats, Diane. Oh, Soul School. Soul School. Soul School is my 4-week online course, which is amazing, where we learn about all this spiritual stuff and how to release and feel emotions and get it out. And during Soul School, every week we have it's online, but we have a one Wednesday catch up with the tribe every week, and you'll get a whole new group of friends. So yeah, I think that's it all covered. If you've got any questions about the yoga or the fascia, get on to Greg. No, I can't wait to go and get my massage and learn more about this stuff. No, if you've got any questions, just basically reach out to me and I will do my best to help you. As I said, I'm no expert, but Beck says, allow, acknowledge, and release. Yes, that's exactly. Allow it. This is the theme of today, Beck. Thank you. Allow it, acknowledge it, and name it, and release it. So simple, but so complicated at the same time. All right, going to go. Susan says she's missed us. Yay, I miss you too. And thank you everyone on my, I don't know, I must be live on 2 places on my personal profile. Who knows? All right, love you all. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you in 2 weeks' time. Hopefully by then, working out how to do it on the Time to Shine group. Technology. All right, bye girls and boys. See ya.